What's up, y'all? TBrown31 here, back with JaboctheGreat. Welcome back to the last word. NFL free agency is in full swing. We've seen a whole lot of moves so far. Probably a lot more to come, especially with these QBs and everything. Aaron Rodgers, of course, Russell Wilson, seeing where they're going to end up. But besides that, it's been a pretty big free agency so far. And, I want to get your thoughts. We'll talk about the Panthers a little bit later on because they've actually made some moves. But what are your thoughts so far? Biggest moves, surprises, things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's some big things moving around. There's some interesting things happening. So of course, like you said, we have no idea where Aaron Rodgers is going yet. We do know that the Jets have abandoned the Aaron Rodgers format here.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is gone. Devontae Adams is gone. I'm trying to think. Let me check them specifically here. I believe they've cleaned house on. Yeah, so they got Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams out of there. I was thinking that they were maybe thinking hard, but I think he's safe right now. However, they also signed Justin Fields. So I don't know if Justin Fields is going to be their starter, their Aaron Rodgers replacement, what they're going for there, but they're clearly committed to the no Aaron Rodgers thing. Sam Darnold is a big move. That one's a little shocking, right? You got he has a great season, almost an MVP level season with the Vikings, and then things kind of change around a little bit, and then boom, you end up with Sam Darnold in Seattle because Geno Smith got traded to the Raiders to go back and work with Pete Carroll. So a little bit of interesting things going on there. Also, there's a little. I just thought about this. There's an interesting little running back swap. Alexander Madison left the Raiders to go to the Dolphins, and Raheem Mostert left the Dolphins to go to the Raiders. So I don't think that makes much of a splash. I think those are kind of the same guy. To be honest, Mostert is better than Madison. So Raiders do a little something with Geno and Madison and Pete Carroll, and we'll see what they're doing. But and you'd see it if you get the NFL's Instagram page. They got them kind of pinned to the top. Aside from Sam Darnold as kind of the biggest quarterback move so far, you do have DK Metcalf going from Seahawk to Steelers. Darnold gets over there, going to have some different weapons to work with. Not going to have DK Metcalf to throw to. Not going to have Justin Jefferson to throw to. Kind of see where that goes. He's got Tyler Lockett as of now, but Tyler Lockett is also up on the market, so be interesting to see. And of course, you got JSN over there, but be interesting to see what Darnold gets to work with. And then, as I said, the Jets let Devontae Adams go. They released him, and so he went to go be a Ram. And that's pretty big because he's not going to have a whole lot of competition because they also released Cooper Kupp. We knew that was kind of happening. Trying to find a move for him, couldn't really get it down. So Cooper Kupp goes off into the air. We'll see where he goes. But Devontae Adams picks up where he was. And of course, you got Puka Nacua, you got Kyron Williams. Now you've got Devontae Adams. Kind of a similar system. I don't think that makes like a crazy change, which is maybe sounds blasphemous to say, but Cooper Kupp is really good at football, and Devontae Adams is really good at football. Just had some down years here and there. So I think truthfully, the Rams just kind of like stay where they were as far as who they lost and who they picked up on that end.
Yeah, so Sam actually doesn't even have Tyler Lockett now because he's cut officially. So like. I don't know. Maybe they might do something because he hasn't signed anywhere. So like, it's possible they may just bring him back on like a slightly different deal. But I don't know. Maybe they would have just restructured it. So I'm not really sure what's going on there because he hasn't signed anywhere yet. So really, he's got Smith and Jigba, of course. You mentioned DK now with Pittsburgh. I see everybody joking about there being basically a Hall of Fame brawl between George Pickens and DK Metcalf over number 14. Obviously, that's not going to happen. DK will probably switch, or, maybe George. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. Neither guy has really like done a ton. Obviously, DK's been better, but DK's been in the league twice as long. I think he's been in the league since 19. I think I've got like 1 second team All Pro, something like that. So not like DK's been amazing either, but obviously he's been the better receiver so far. You would assume the Steelers would keep George Pickens. He's not going to get. Ain't no way he's getting an extension or anything right now. He's been good, of course. He's definitely really talented, but he's not going to get some kind of extension right now. So I would assume they'd keep him. At least have something. I can't remember. I think they let somebody else go just now, the receiver as well. So like they probably need the receiver help, I would imagine. Let me see, because I'm pretty sure they cut somebody. Can't remember, but they let somebody go at receiver. So obviously they need the receiver help. I'd imagine they keep George Pickens. Who the quarterback is going to be? They brought back Mason Rudolph. That does not mean anything. All right, no, 2 years, $8 million. That's nothing. He's going to be the backup, obviously, since you mentioned Justin Fields. He's in New York with Aaron Rodgers gone. A lot of recycling the QBs here. It's really funny. At this point, I would just stick with Russell Wilson. I mean, obviously he wasn't like amazing, but he was good for the most part. They tailed off horribly at the end of the season. Playoff game, another disappointing year for them. But I just don't see the point in bringing in Aaron Rodgers. And regardless of what happens, I'd imagine this would be the last year for Russ or Aaron. Doesn't matter who. So I think Steelers at some point, they need to sit down and say, hey, we need to get a QB of the future. Maybe they thought they had it with Kenny Pickett, who signed with the Browns, who Russell Wilson also had conversations with. So, I mean, it's a lot of, again, recycling. Same guys going same places, switching spots. They thought they had that for Kenny Pickett. Obviously, that wasn't the case. They got rid of him. Mason Rudolph, obviously not going to be the guy either. So I think at some point they need to just sit down and draft the guy. Justin Fields, maybe they could have given him more of a shot. I mean, he only played like 6 games, but clearly with all this QB nonsense, Steelers, I don't think, no matter what they do, they'll have their guy. And maybe they could have considered Sam Darnold. In my opinion, I don't hate Sam Darnold. I'm not going to criticize him just based off of the last game of the season and a playoff game. But I think if you had given Sam Darnold like a huge deal, he did get $100 million from Seattle, he probably would have got somebody fired. Now he would have had weapons in Pittsburgh. I get that, but for as much as what some people were saying he should have gotten, like, no, absolutely not. So QB market obviously is the big focus right now with Aaron and with Russell. Daniel Jones, he was with Minnesota. Sam Darnold's old stop. He's now with Indianapolis, and I don't know what the heck's going on down there. They probably might end up looking for another QB next year too. So QB is obviously the big selling point of free agency right now, but a ton of other moves elsewhere. And like you mentioned, Devontae Adams, he signed with the Rams after getting released by the Jets. So I think that's kind of that big one over there.
Yeah, and then just like yesterday, I believe DeAndre Hopkins goes from the Chiefs to the Ravens. So Ravens keep trying to make that push. We'll see if adding in D-Hop will help. He scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. Didn't really mean much. We covered that one there, but he's there. I think he's still got a little bit in the tank. Kind of a move that I had forgotten about, but I just remembered. It's actually, I think, a pretty solid one. And somehow the Bills were able to snag Joey Bosa, which is crazy.
Oh yeah, true.
Feels like a big move. Feels like it really kneecaps the Chargers. I think that it does make the Bills better for sure, but I do think that it really hurts the Chargers for one of their shining moments to be gone just that simply. But yeah, I mean, it's all about the star power, right? On the running back, some of our bigger names have also moved around. So the Steelers did lose Najee Harris, and he bolstered the Chargers. Najee Harris goes over there for a 1-year, $9 million deal. Aaron Jones stays with the Vikings for 2 years, $20 million. Nothing too wrong with that, I don't think. Jonte Williams leaves the Broncos to go to the Cowboys. We got Rico Dowdle to leave the Cowboys and come over to Carolina on a 1-year, $3 million deal. He'll be behind Chuba Hubbard. No way around that. So we'll talk a little bit more in depth with the Panthers, but I'm happy with that move. But you still got like J.K. Dobbins, Nick Chubb, Gus Edwards. We released Miles Sanders. Kyle Juszczyk has been released. Kareem Hunt is out there. So some big names on the running back room to move around, and some big receivers still up in the air. Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Cooper Kupp is still out in the air. Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson. I don't know if I would consider a big name just because of the PR disaster class he decided to do to himself last year.
Yeah.
What Sam Darnold does have is Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who I saw a graphic earlier, which is really silly. He has played with the MVP for like the past 5 years, so maybe Sam Darnold is about to get his MVP. MVS was with Aaron Rodgers both times, and then Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. So we'll see if Sam Darnold breaks that curse or breaks that blessing, I guess. And really, outside of that, not any crazy names. Matt Collins left the Bills. He was a pretty serviceable guy there, but they picked up Josh Palmer from the Chargers, who I think was good last year, but played with the Chargers, and therefore nobody really knew. You don't really have a lot of these guys that are like, can they? I mean, I hate to phrase it this whole episode this way, but like, can one of these guys save Sam Darnold in Seattle? And I don't want to discredit Jackson Smith and Jimbo. I think he's going to be great, but it's kind of interesting to think about like, yeah, well, the Steelers know that they have a history so far recently of being exceptional in the regular season and then dying in the playoffs. And what has Sam Darnold done every season that he's been good? Be exceptional in the regular season and die in the playoffs. And so I don't think the Steelers wanted to bring him there where they have a lot of talent. So the Seahawks can kind of afford to throw it back at him and see what they can do. But he did just play with Justin Jefferson last season. And I think Sam Darnold was good. I think a lot of what he did wasn't all of Justin Jefferson. I had Jefferson in fantasy. There's definitely days where I was like, man, I wish he would throw the ball to Justin Jefferson a little more. But I do think we have to be aware that, Sam Darnold might need one of these bigger name guys to appear out of thin air and make his life a little better. So, yeah, and to round out the offensive stuff, not really any tight ends that are big in name to move around. I think we discussed this a little bit last year. The state of tight ends has been a little bleak. Most of these tight ends that are open have just went back home. So Juwan Johnson stays with the Saints. Mike Gesicki stays with the Bengals. Ertz stays with the Commanders. He was great there. Hooper stays with the Patriots. Bates stays with the Commanders. And then Evan Ingram leaves Jacksonville to go to Denver. So maybe he'll be able to make a splash with Bo Nix. Not really sure. Tyler Conklin, a Jet, as the Jets are completely reimagining themselves. He's still out there on the open. If I were them, I'd keep him, but I don't. We'll see what they do.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at, I'll go stay with the NFC West since we were talking about the Seahawks. The Niners, they have lost a lot of people so far, and I think they'll be fine this year. Like, I'm not gonna write them off. Again, it seems like every time the Niners have a bad year, we usually be able to chalk it up to injuries. But even before, like they weren't having the greatest of seasons. Even before Christian got hurt, and then he got hurt again and everything. But they like you mentioned, Leonard Floyd, he's gone, Lee Collins gone, Hargrave gone, Juszczyk gone. They traded Debo, so like and it's not ending there. So I think again, I think they'll be fine, but you do have to wonder, like, hey, maybe is this window kind of closing? At some point they're gonna have to pay Brock Purdy. People can argue like, hey, he shouldn't really get that much as he's a product of his environment. Well, maybe we'll see. Now you let go of Debo, you let go of his fullback. Christian McCaffrey will be there. Brandon Ayuk, we'll see. Kind of what happens with him. Like, it's possible a lot of his guys are going to be gone, and if he's not able to really perform again, maybe they don't decide to pull the trigger and pay him. Maybe they pay him well below market value. We'll see. Obviously, he ain't getting what Josh Allen just signed for. Josh getting that huge deal up in Buffalo. He just won MVP, of course. But I think they'll be fine. They just have to get guys back. But that division, again, is not going to be a joke. I mean, the Rams, they're making moves. Like you mentioned, Cooper Kupp he's probably going to be gone. Like, it isn't official yet. But I'd imagine Cooper Kupp's probably gone. They brought in Devontae. Like, they're somewhat similar in age. They probably would have gotten the same kind of contract. Like, it's a clear move of, hey, Devontae's coming in to get Cooper Kupp out of here. Like, I think that's probably going to be done deal. And maybe since we've started, maybe they actually cut him. So I'm not sure. But it's probably going to be a done deal with Cooper Kupp. Cardinals, some points last year they were good, some points they weren't. And Seahawks, again, they were kind of close to making the playoffs, but missed it. Possibly with other moves they're making, may or may not be good. But that division, again, I don't think it'll be a cakewalk. And switching to the AFC North, you mentioned this moves that the Steelers made, not getting Sam Darnold because of maybe the playoff choke. I don't want to put my entire opinion of him, just off of one playoff game. It's the first one he played, but I mean, we do have to take that into consideration. Maybe the Steelers did. The Ravens, they re-signed Ronnie Stanley, gave him a pretty good deal. So Obviously, they're going to shore up that offensive line. They want to try to come back, make moves again, win that division again this year. The Bengals, they got to figure out whatever they're doing this offseason. Joe Burrow, obviously, he's got his money. Jamar Chase, how are they going to pay him? They did franchise tag T. Higgins for the second time. How that dynamic is going to work, I don't know. And then Trey, how are they going to pay him? It's a lot. So I don't know what the Bengals are really going to do. They've kind of backed themselves into a hole. Apparently, they've been in talks with teams for a trade with Trey Hendrickson, but the asking price is apparently ridiculous. So I don't know what ridiculous means. I mean, he's one of the best D linemen, edge rushers in the NFL. I mean, I don't know what you want to say there. I mean, maybe they're asking for like 5 first rounders or something. I don't know. But Bengals, they have a whole lot to worry about there. And then again, the Browns, I mentioned them briefly earlier, with the Kenny Pickett possible Russell Wilson thing. Deshaun Watson looked like right now I think he's probably going to be out for the season. You got to do something at QB. I just think at this point you probably should just draft somebody. So I'd say draft Cam Moore, Shador, one of those two guys. I understand Travis Hunter, probably the best player in the draft, but I would imagine they need to just don't worry about trying to get Russ. Don't none of that, guys. Just draft somebody, be done with it. So I don't think they'll be making any more splashes as far as QB goes. But again, that'll be another tough division. So those two divisions, especially, I think free agency wise, kind of the biggest news so far. But since we mentioned it, I do kind of want to talk about Carolina. We have been making some moves, nothing like crazy, but pretty good moves so far to at least bolster a team that looked a little bit better at the end of last season. Not fantastic. Bryce Young definitely played better, but I'm not going to overreact too much. But I am excited that at least extended J.C. Horn, re-signed Tommy Tremble, re-signed some other guys, Christensen, offensive line, brought Andy Dalton back to be our backup. Like you mentioned, Rico Dowdle, re-signed a couple other guys there, here and there, cut Miles Sanders. So I am happy with the moves he made. I'm not going to, go too crazy over anything that's happened so far.
Yeah, I mean, nothing that the Panthers have done has made me mad yet, so that's pretty good. We keep Tommy Tremble around. Not my favorite tight end in the league, but I think he's young. We can keep working with him. I'm not super opposed to that. They extend J.C. Horn if he could be healthy. I'm very, very happy with that. Bring in Trayvon Moehrig from the Raiders. I think that was a good move. Rico Dowdle is a good move to have somebody behind Chuba Hubbard. So I'm really not upset. I think there's most of what we need to do is not entirely on offense. So, Dowdle is really like the main thing we've done there. And we've picked up, Sam Martin, Patrick Jones, picked up a lot of guys that I think are filling some holes that we need, that were good, just maybe a little underrated last season. Not the best guys in the league at their position. But maybe the Panthers could develop them into being that. I don't know about that. But we also brought back some core guys. I'm happy to have Austin Corbett back. We brought back Michael Jackson, so that's a wonderful one for our social media team, I'm sure. He's not a terrible player. He's maybe mad a few times, but he's pretty solid. So I'll take that. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with the Panthers. I don't think we can make a super major splash yet. I think we're rising. I think we're doing pretty good. I think Bryce Young is going to continue to perform well, but until we prove that we're a desirable place to land, I think it's going to be a little tough to bring in the major big names. Panthers fans really want T. Higgins. We signed T. Higgins. I think I would do a backflip, but I just don't. I don't think that we're the most admirable place on the list of places to go. Maybe by the time the Bengals ever let him out of being franchise tagged, we might have a bigger shot. But I think that's a little overzealous on that end. But yeah, I think as far as some teams go, we're doing pretty good. You can think about America's division, the NFC East, and you can pretty much guess what Dallas has done. That being nothing.
Yeah.
They just don't. I don't know why they exist that way and why they choose to do that way. I could probably point to one man, but they haven't done a whole lot. Philly, they win the Super Bowl and they have done a little bit, but they also lost Darius Slay. He went to the Steelers. I forgot about that one. C.J. Gardner-Johnson went to the Texans. Kenny Pickett went to the Browns, and in return they got Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Interesting swap of backup quarterbacks.
I guess that's one way
I
to
mean,
describe it.
yeah. No, my bad to Kenny and Dorian, but they pick up AJ Dillon as well. So they do a little bit. But really, I wanted to talk about this division before we ended for one reason. I didn't even mention the Giants, so no hate to them. They're just kind of not always on my radar. But Washington, also not usually entirely on my radar. They have gone a little crazy. I mean, you pick up some core guys, some good. I wouldn't want to say like role players. I feel like that has a negative connotation. But you get like Will Harris, Jonathan Jones, Eddie Goldman. You pick up Javon Kinlaw just to trade for Laramie Tunsil, which is massive for two things. One, that's massive for the protection of Jaden Daniels. Two, CJ Stroud needs a hospital on speed dial because the Texans have no business getting rid of their offensive lineman, but that is what it is.
Yeah.
And then they also traded for Deebo Samuel, and they have not lost, Scary Terry or anything like that. So now you got Jaden Daniels throwing to Deebo and Terry. They also re-signed Bobby Wagner. They re-signed Zach Ertz. They re-signed Noah Brown. They re-signed Tress Way. They re-signed KJ Osborne. They re-signed Jeremy McNichols. They got John Bates to stay. They got Zane Gonzalez to stay. I don't know where they got all the money from, and most of these guys are on pretty small deals anyway. But they have really, really held that core together. And as their division members have made a few interesting moves here and there. I don't think the Eagles are going to fall off for being the top threat in that division, but Commanders are gearing up to look like they're trying to hold on to this run and stay good for the at least the first chunk of Jaden Daniels' career. So I think that's pretty big. And the Cowboys are they're doing something, but obviously Philly and Washington still big up there. And then as far as our division as well, I think Carolina is doing pretty good to stay up to par. I haven't seen a whole lot with Atlanta, Tampa Bay, or New Orleans. New Orleans doing a lot of re-signing, similar to Washington, but I don't think it's the most appealing division right now. So we're kind of staying in a position where we could maybe make a splash.
Yeah, I mean the Saints, they for the most part, I mean, they had the Derek Carr, kind of restructure with that, and they gave Chase Young the deal. A lot of people questioning that is like, I don't know about that one, but yeah, I mean their main issue again, the cap. This has been going on for like 5-6 years now, and obviously, they'll figure it out. Of course, I mean they're not going to go into the season with negative cap. I mean it's just not going to happen. But again, they have to keep dealing with all this with the cap. They kept pushing it, and now it's hitting. So I mean, they really are effectively in a rebuild. I mean, obviously they fired their coach this year. We talked about it, and again, they finished right there with us at the bottom of the division, but they technically finished fourth. So I mean, they for the Saints, really they've hit rock bottom. I mean, in our lifetime, I mean, the Saints really haven't been, this bad, and it's just going to take them, some time to kind of reset things. I mean, Derek Carr, I can't imagine of course the man's like 33, 34, but I can't imagine if they really want him to be that guy. I think they're just trying to deal with what they got right now, try to figure things out. I mean, I think quarterback wise, we'll see Michael Penix. I mean, he looked good in the time that he had, but we'll see, if he's going to be that guy. If I can still have Kirk Cousins, I don't really know what's going to go on with that. That's kind of confusing. I mean, they still have to pay him this year, and it seems like they are going to. So I don't know, but it seems like they, kind of got that thing figured out. Obviously, Tampa, they're the one surefire at quarterback right now, I'd say. Baker Mayfield, he's definitely that guy in Tampa. I think Bryce is going to be that guy, but he still has to show something this year. I don't think. Obviously, if he doesn't have to, he's not going to go out there and win MVP. That's not happening. But if he at least, again, shows improvement, Bryce will be that guy. We just have to continue to, put pieces around him, not make stupid mistakes, and kind of let things work out. I think David Tepper finally is relaxing when it comes to, jumping all over everything, just trying to be in everything. I think he's finally letting go. So, I think the division right now it still belongs to the Bucs, but I am happy with where things are with the Panthers. For the most part right now, all things considered.
Yeah. So I really think that that's a lot of the big notable things. I mean, you've got the the AFC South. they are a football division, and they have made.
Yeah.
They,
I thought we were bad, but like AFC South's worse.
Yeah, Jacksonville has gotten rid of Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram and Devin Duvernay. They brought in a few people here and there. De'Ami Brown is probably one of their best pickups as far as trying to get somebody to actually play good football. They also let Mac Jones go. The Texans have not been terrible. I mean, they tried to do a little bit of something. They've made a lot of moves. You're gonna have to see how it's gonna work. I mean, they picked up Christian Kirk, which is helpful because they've got so many, wide receiver issues. Also, sure, you got to make something shake there. They get C.J. Gardner Johnson, everyone's favorite evil man if he's on your team, I guess. They pick up Ed Ingram. You get Justin Watson. Braxton Berrios is not the most moving thing to me. You get Trayvon Smith, you get Laken Tomlinson, and that's pretty solid. Sheldon Rankins, Darrell Taylor. I mean, they've picked up good people, but they've also let go of Larry Tunsil. They let go of Shaq Mason, Kenyon Green. I'm not entirely sure what's happening there. We don't know what's happening with the Stephon Diggs situation either. So his deal is still up in there. Indianapolis, they've made moves. Cam Bynum, Travarius Ward, Daniel Jones. I don't think these are bad. Khalil Herbert, they've picked up good players. I just don't think they have the foundation to pick up just these 5 guys and roll with it. So Daniel Jones is definitely not the guy I would go for at quarterback at this moment. But Cam Bynum, Travarius Ward, picking up Khalil Herbert. I think those are solid moves. I can't be upset about that. That's nothing to wink at too much, But they definitely need more going on. They're too inconsistent of a team, and I don't know what they're doing with the Anthony Richardson situation. Are they picking up Daniel Jones to come take a job? Is it going to be like they did last season, where they keep playing every quarterback in the locker room until they figure out what works, and nothing ever works? I got no idea. And then of course Tennessee, they've done a little bit. They got Van Jefferson. They got Johnny Hecker, who was a Panther. Brandon Allen, which is a football move. Xavier Woods also went there. So yeah, I didn't have to go through as many of these moves. This division was really bad last year, and they made the NFC South look good. And I think that they're on track to do the same thing again next year if things don't change. They're just really inconsistent. Can't get it together. Texans will probably run it unless for some reason Trevor Lawrence and his receivers can finally connect. Maybe they'll do something. But yeah, disappointing year last year. So far, disappointing free agency for them. Not a whole lot to go on there. Probably the same for the NFC East. The Bills have been pretty big. The Dolphins have done a little bit here and there. Dolphins added Zach Wilson, but otherwise, they've not done super major things. They got rid of Raheem Mostert, picked up a few guys here and there to bolster the lines. The Patriots have done more than Tennessee, but they haven't done a whole lot themselves either. It just hasn't been the most eventful offseason for them yet. I mean, I'd say probably the biggest thing is Matt Collins. They also got Josh Dobbs. So, nothing super big there. And then, of course, we talked about the Jets. They're trying to, as fast as they can, get rid of the Aaron Rodgers identity and figure out who they are. So, not much to report on that either.
Yeah, man. So like you said, I mean, it's a lot going on, but I think most people right now are still putting their eyes on Aaron Rodgers. Like, where is he going to go? Is he going to follow that Brett Favre career path? I mean, ironically, people were making the joke before, like, hey, you can go follow, Brett Favre, go to the Jets, and go to the Vikings. But, I mean, right now, it looks like the Vikings might be able to get him. I mean, are they going to be? Now, again, Sam Darnold, he wouldn't, was he even going to start before JJ got injured? We might have not even seen Sam Darnold last year if JJ actually played, considering how high they drafted JJ. So maybe they just stick with him. I mean, they have to have somebody in that QB room. They don't really have anybody right now. I think there's one other guy back there, but it's possible, and it'll be hilarious. And if Aaron Rodgers I'm not saying he was awful last year, but if Aaron Rodgers can't get it together down there in Minnesota, I think that's it, buddy.
Yeah,